Okay, so design thinking.
Mhm.
Sometimes it sounds, I don't know, a little bit like boardroom jargon,
Yeah.
but it's really a cool idea, and I think especially when we see how it's being used to change the world of health tech,
Right.
it's pretty amazing some of these innovations that are coming out because of this approach. We're talking apps like
Yeah.
specifically for seniors
Yeah.
or interfaces that are so easy to use, like anyone can use them.
What's so interesting is how design thinking is really putting people at the heart of health tech. It's not just about building the shiniest, coolest new gadget.
Yeah.
It's about really understanding patients and providers and making solutions that actually meet their needs.
So it's more than just a buzzword.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a whole different way of thinking about problem solving.
Yeah.
And it's already making a real impact.
I'm intrigued. But for those of us who aren't, designers ourselves,
Yeah.
can you break down what design thinking actually means? Like, what is it?
Sure. So at its core, design thinking is all about finding solutions to problems. But it's not about locking yourself in a room, coming up with some kind of brilliant idea all by yourself. It's a very hands-on, iterative process.
Okay.
You start by empathizing with the people that you're designing for, really trying to understand their needs and their pain points.
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know, like try and bake a cake.
Yeah.
And you keep testing it and tweaking the recipe until it's absolutely perfect.
I love that. That's a great analogy. You're constantly getting feedback,
Yeah.
refining your ideas, and making sure that the end result is something that really works for the people who will be using it.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this would apply to healthcare. Have you ever tried to navigate an online patient portal? It's like they weren't designed for actual humans to use.
I hear you. Healthcare is kind of a different world. And that's actually why design thinking is so important in this area. Because you have so many different people involved. You've got the patients, you've got doctors, nurses, insurance companies,
Right.
and they each have their own, sets of needs and their own sets of challenges. And then you throw in all the complex regulations and the high stakes of, dealing with people's health. It creates a system that could be really frustrating.
Right. It's not as simple as just, building a cool new app. There are all these real world factors you have to think about.
Exactly. So design thinking forces you to consider those human elements right from the very beginning.
Yeah.
What are the patient's fears? What are their goals? And how can we design things that not only work well,
Yeah.
but make them feel heard and understood?
You've mentioned empathy a few times now. I'm sensing this is a key ingredient in this design thinking recipe.
Absolutely. Empathy is the foundation of design thinking, especially in health tech. If you don't have it, you end up creating solutions that might be technologically impressive,
Right.
but they completely miss the mark when it comes to meeting people's actual needs.
So it's not just about building the most high-tech gadget.
No, not at all. It's about really understanding what people are going through, their emotional and practical needs,
Okay.
and using that to create solutions that really, truly resonate with people.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you actually practice empathy? Are we talking about therapy sessions for tech developers?
Not therapy, but there are specific tools and techniques that design thinkers use to sort of put themselves in the shoes of the people that they're designing for.
Okay, what are some of those tools?
One of the most important is conducting patient interviews. So you actually sit down with real patients and listen to their experiences.
Okay.
What are their pain points? What are their frustrations? What do they wish was different?
I can see how that would be really valuable because, it's one thing to read a report or something about patient experiences, but it's another thing entirely to hear it from the people that are living it every day.
Yeah, exactly. Another key tool is journey mapping. This involves visually mapping out every step a patient takes from the moment they realize they have a health issue,
Okay.
all the way through their interactions with the healthcare system and beyond. And it really helps you to identify those potential bottlenecks, the pain points, and the opportunities for improvement.
So you're creating a roadmap of the patient's entire experience.
Yeah, precisely. And by really understanding that whole journey, then you can identify where can technology come in to improve this experience, whether it's making it easier to schedule appointments, to access information, or connect with their care team.
Okay, so you've got the patient interviews, you've got the journey mapping. Any other secret weapons in this empathy toolkit?
Yeah, so we also use something called persona development.
Hmm.
And this is basically creating these detailed fictional representations of different types of patients based on the insights you've gathered through those interviews and research.
So you're basically creating characters like in a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these characters are based on real data and real insights. They have names, they have backstories, they have motivations, frustrations.
Right.
And by creating these personas, you can really start to think about, okay, how would different types of patients interact with the thing we're building? What might their unique needs be?
I like that. I mean, it makes it much more tangible than just thinking about patients as this like big abstract group, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. You think about the diversity of the patient population and designing solutions that are inclusive and accessible for everyone.
Okay, so we've got this framework for innovation, this focus on empathy. Why is this particularly important in healthcare? I mean, you mentioned that healthcare is kind of a complex space. What makes it such a challenge for innovators?
Yeah, it's really unlike any other industry. I mean, the stakes are incredibly high, right? We're talking about people's lives, their well-being. You're also dealing with incredibly complex systems, multiple stakeholders, and this constantly evolving landscape of regulations and technologies.
And I imagine it's tough to kind of balance like the need for innovation with the importance of, patient safety and ethical considerations.
Absolutely. You can't just kind of throw any new technology out there without thinking about, what are the potential consequences.
Mm.
So design thinking helps you navigate that complexity by ensuring that you're always keeping that focus on the people that are going to be most affected by these solutions that you're creating.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. But can you give me a concrete example? How have these tools, like these empathy-driven approaches, how have they actually been used to, create a successful health tech solution? Something that really demonstrates the power of this whole design thinking thing.
Absolutely. So let's talk about how design thinking has been used to enhance patient engagement in clinical trials.
Okay.
So traditionally, clinical trials have struggled with low recruitment and high dropout rates.
Mhm.
And that's because patients might find the whole process really intimidating.
Yeah.
The information is overwhelming or the commitment just seems like too much.
Right. It's a big decision to participate in a clinical trial.
Exactly. So researchers started to apply these design thinking principles to that challenge. And they started by conducting these really in-depth patient interviews. And they wanted to understand, like, why are people hesitant to participate? What are their fears? What are their concerns? And what would make it more appealing?
So they were really trying to get inside the heads of those potential participants?
Yes, exactly. And what they discovered was that many patients felt really overwhelmed by the complexity of clinical trials. They didn't understand the jargon, they were intimidated by the procedures, and they were worried about potential side effects.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So armed with those insights, the researchers were able to actually design solutions that address those concerns.
Like, what did they come up with?
Well, they created educational materials that explained clinical trials in a way that was easy to understand using simple language, visuals, even videos. They developed really user-friendly apps that help patients track their progress, get reminders, and stay connected with the research team. And they even redesigned that informed consent process using plain language and visuals to make it less daunting.
So, by really understanding that patient perspective,
Yeah.
they were able to create solutions that made clinical trials less scary and more accessible.
Exactly. And the results were incredible. These design thinking interventions actually led to significant increases in patient recruitment and retention,
Wow,
which ultimately speeds up the pace of medical research.
that's amazing. Okay, I'm officially on board with this whole design thinking thing. I'm already starting to see how it can be used to make a real difference in healthcare. But tell me, what other areas of health tech are being transformed by this approach?
Oh, there are so many. We're seeing it in telemedicine platforms, electronic health records, devices designed for seniors.
Okay.
So many examples. Let's dive into a few more.
Okay, I'm ready for more. What other areas of health tech are benefiting from this design thinking magic?
Well, one area where we're seeing a lot of progress is telemedicine. Remember those clunky patient portals we talked about?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if those were redesigned with, like, the patient in mind.
I would love that. I have definitely had my share of frustrating telemedicine experiences.
Yes.
Like lagging video, confusing interfaces. It's like they weren't designed for actual humans.
Exactly. And that's where design thinking comes in. So
Right.
instead of just like, oh, let's just slap a video call feature onto this existing platform,
Right.
you start by asking what would make a telemedicine experience um, truly enjoyable and effective for the patient.
Okay, so what have they learned? What makes a good telemedicine experience?
Well, one of the big things is accessibility. I mean, not everyone is the tech whiz,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Especially when you're talking about like older patients or people with disabilities.
yeah.
So design thinking prioritizes creating interfaces that are um, intuitive for everyone,
Yeah.
regardless of their tech skills. So think like large text, clear icons, maybe even voice commands.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've like squinted at my screen trying to like figure out what these tiny buttons are or navigate through these like confusing menus.
Yeah.
It's like you need a degree in engineering just to schedule an appointment.
Yeah, exactly. And, another important thing is creating a sense of human connection, even though it's in this digital setting.
Right.
So this might involve, designing interfaces that prioritize eye contact. Maybe there's like a picture-in-picture view, or you're using subtle design cues that kind of mimic the feeling of a face-to-face conversation.
It's almost like designing the virtual equivalent of like a comfortable doctor's office.
Yeah.
Like you want to feel heard and understood even if you're not physically in the same room.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, design thinking isn't just about the patient experience. It's also about improving workflows for the healthcare providers,
Right.
right? So by streamlining these interfaces, making it easier for doctors to access information, schedule appointments, handle all the administrative stuff, you can actually help reduce burnout and free up their time so that they can focus on patient care.
So happy doctors, happy patients, right?
Exactly.
Design thinking is a win-win for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not limited to telemedicine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we see design thinking being used for all sorts of challenges within hospitals and clinics. One example is improving provider workflows.
Okay, I'm curious about that. Like what kind of challenges are we talking about when it comes to provider workflows?
Well, just think about the sheer amount of information that doctors and nurses have to like juggle every day.
Yeah.
Patient charts, lab results, medication lists, imaging studies.
That's a lot.
It's overwhelming, and unfortunately, a lot of the systems they rely on are they're clunky, they're fragmented, they require a lot of manual data entry,
Right.
which can lead to errors and a lot of frustration.
Yeah, and I imagine that's not even like counting the actual interactions they have with patients.
Right.
The constant interruptions, the pressure to make these like quick decisions. I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds exhausting.
It can be. It can be. And so that's where design thinking can really make a difference. So by applying those same principles, that empathy and that user-centered design,
Yeah.
we can create systems and tools that make their lives easier, that reduce burnout, and ultimately improve the quality of care.
So, I mean, how does that actually work? What are some examples of how design thinking is actually being used to improve these provider workflows?
So one area where we're seeing a lot of innovation is in the design of electronic health records,
Okay.
EHRs.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard, the horror stories from doctors about how difficult and time-consuming these systems can
Yeah,
be.
yeah, all the time. My doctor friends complain about EHRs all the time.
Yeah, and for good reason. I mean, a lot of the HR systems are just notoriously difficult to use. They're slow, they're cluttered, a lot of clicking and scrolling to find the information you need.
Yeah.
But design thinking is starting to change that. So by focusing on simplicity, on clarity, on ease of use, developers are creating EHR systems that are, well, dare I say, a pleasure to work with.
Okay, a pleasure to work with. That's a bold claim.
I know, but it's true.
Yeah.
So imagine an EHR that anticipates your needs, that proactively surfaces the information that you need, that allows you to quickly document patient encounters without feeling like you're, fighting with the software.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that would be a game changer.
Yeah.
Happy doctors, efficient workflows. Sounds like design thinking really does have the potential to benefit everyone involved.
Exactly. Yeah. And it goes beyond just EHRs.
Yeah.
We're seeing it applied to medication management systems, scheduling platforms, communication tools.
Right.
The goal is really to create this seamless and supportive digital ecosystem that empowers healthcare providers to do what they do best, which is care for their patients.
This is incredible. So we've talked about clinical trials, we've talked about telemedicine, provider workflows. Where else are we seeing this design thinking revolution like in action?
So one area that I think is really interesting is the development of health tech solutions that are specifically designed for seniors.
Oh, interesting. I know a lot of seniors who struggle with technology.
Yeah.
Even simple things like smartphones and tablets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why design thinking is so important in this space. So instead of just trying to adapt existing technologies, for an older audience,
Right.
designers are really starting from scratch and asking, okay, what do seniors actually need and want from these digital health tools?
That's a much better approach. So what are they finding? Like what makes a good app or a good device for a senior?
One of the big things is simplicity. So seniors often prefer interfaces that are really clean, uncluttered, and easy to navigate.
That makes sense.
They don't want to be bombarded with, a million different features and options.
Right, right. That's how I feel every time I try to like set up a new smart home device.
Yes.
Like too many buttons, too many menus. I just want to like chuck the whole thing out the window.
Exactly, exactly. And another really important consideration is accessibility, right? So many seniors have vision or hearing impairments. So it's really important to design these apps and these devices so that they're easy to see and easy to hear. So that might be using large text, high contrast colors, incorporating audio feedback.
So it's not just about making things like simple.
Yeah.
It's about making them truly accessible to everyone.
Exactly, and it goes even deeper than that. So designers are also thinking about cognitive accessibility, recognizing that seniors might process information differently. They may have difficulty remembering things. So this could involve incorporating features like reminders, step-by-step instructions, or even just making it really easy to access help and support.
It's almost like having a built-in tech support buddy, like right there in the app.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. And here's the thing about these design principles, right?
Yeah.
They're not just beneficial for seniors. I mean, they make technology more user-friendly for everyone.
That's a really good point. It's like those curb cuts that were originally designed for wheelchair users,
Yeah.
but they ended up benefiting everyone.
Right.
From parents pushing strollers to delivery people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So often these, design thinking leads to these solutions that have a universal benefit. So when you design for the people with the greatest needs, you often end up creating products and services that are better for everyone.
So enough with the theory. Give me the goods. What are some like concrete examples of these senior-friendly health tech innovations? Like what's the cool stuff out there?
Well, one area that's really taking off is medication management. So there are these apps that are designed specifically to help seniors remember to take their medications on time,
Okay.
keep track of their dosages, and refill prescriptions.
I mean, that's huge. I know so many seniors who struggle with like managing multiple medications.
Yeah.
It can be so confusing.
It is, and these apps can make a world of difference.
Yeah.
And they often have like really simple, easy-to-read interfaces with large buttons and clear instructions. Some even have audio reminders where they allow you to connect with family members or caregivers for extra support.
Wow, that's
So-
really impressive. So it's not just about reminding them to take their pills. It's like creating a whole support system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Another area where we're seeing a lot of innovation is fall prevention.
Okay.
So as we age, obviously our risk of falling increases.
Right.
And falls can have really serious consequences. So designers are coming up with all these new technologies, from wearable devices to smart home systems. They can detect falls, alert caregivers, and even help prevent falls from happening in the first place.
Wait, really? How do these devices actually like detect a fall? Is it like some kind of magic sensor?
Kind of. So some wearables use, accelerometers and gyroscopes
Right.
to detect like sudden changes in movement.
Okay.
And then smart home systems might use motion sensors or even cameras to kind of monitor activity.
That's incredible. It's like having a virtual guardian angel like looking out for you.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And these are just a few examples, right? There are apps that help seniors stay social connected, track their fitness goals, manage chronic conditions,
Right.
even access telehealth services. It's a really exciting time for senior-focused health tech.
It's inspiring to see how design thinking is like, empowering seniors and improving their quality of life.
It really is. And the best part is, like I said, a lot of these innovations, they benefit everyone, not just seniors. When we design for the people with the greatest needs, we often end up creating solutions that make things better for everyone.
So, I mean, if we're being honest here, have you personally experienced any health tech that felt like it was truly designed with you in mind? Like something that made you think, wow, they really get me?
That's a really good point. It makes you think about all the technology we use every day, and whether it's actually serving us or just making us feel like we're constantly trying to catch up.
Yeah, sometimes it does feel like we're the ones, adapting to the technology instead of the other way around. But, I think the examples we've talked about, they're really they give me hope that things are changing.
Yeah, me too. It's exciting to see how design thinking is really kind of like putting that focus back on people.
Absolutely. It's about time. And I think by putting the user at the heart of that whole design process,
Yeah.
you can create technology that isn't just functional, but also, enjoyable, empowering, and actually meaningful. Okay, let's recap what we've learned today. We started by kind of like demystifying this whole idea of design thinking. Breaking it down, this concept that can sometimes feel a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
And showing why it matters so much, especially in a field as complex as healthcare.
We talked about how crucial that empathy piece is, right?
Yeah.
And those 5 key phases and how they all work together. And really how design thinking is just such a different approach than those traditional problem-solving methods.
And then we dove into a bunch of real-world examples,
Yep.
showcasing how design thinking is being used to improve, like everything from, patient engagement in clinical trials to the design of those telemedicine platforms. We even saw how it's being used to create these amazing new tools for seniors and for healthcare providers.
And we're just scratching the surface. I mean, as design thinking becomes more and more widespread in healthcare, I think we can expect to see even more of these really creative and impactful solutions coming out in the years to come.
I can't wait to see what they come up with next. It really does feel like we're on the verge of a healthcare revolution, one where technology is finally being used to truly serve the needs of patients and providers.
I totally agree. It's a really exciting time to be in this field. And as you kind of navigate the world of health tech, I think it's always good to keep this question in mind. Is this technology truly serving the people it's meant to help?
That's a powerful question. It really reminds us to be critical thinkers and to demand solutions that really do put human needs front and center.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think the future of healthcare really depends on it.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. Thanks for joining me and sharing your expertise on this fascinating topic.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine.
Yeah.
Always happy to talk about the power of design thinking.
And to all our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Who knows what amazing, empathy-driven solutions are waiting for us out there in the future.
Yeah.
Until next time, stay curious.